Good morning. Today, I'm going to talk about focus on the breath as part of the calm abiding meditation practice. So, yesterday, I talked about taking the pose and some advice, some suggestions for beginning the meditation session with a pose, what to think about, how to take the sometimes kind of overwhelming directions about posture and turn them into something that supports and sustains the practice. So check that video. That was from yesterday. So now let's assume today that you have your pose. There are many, many different kinds of meditation practices. Right? There's practices where you visualize and maybe chant, and the visualization and the chant helps generate some sensation and then maybe transform that sensation. There is meditation where the direction is simply to let things be as they are. Very powerful, beautiful in the Tibetan tradition. Dzogchen, it's called Dzogchen practice, big sky practice. And then that's just within Bon and within Tibet. Then you start to bring in all the other schools and traditions. So there's countless numbers of meditation practices. What I'm talking about today is cultivating the mind free of distraction. And I think, and this is really my thought, my perception, because different teachers, different practitioners will have the absolute reverse of what I'm about to say. I think that this state of mind of calm, equanimous, alert, balance is a prerequisite for other kinds of practices. And I say that hedging all my bets that doesn't even necessarily hold true even from my own experience. But I think it's helpful enough that it's worth cultivating this sense. The reason I say that other teachers, other practitioners will say the reverse, is because that state can be arrived at in a moment. And perhaps what happens is you arrive at that moment, and then the practice is to stabilize the recognition. Right? There's a bit of a nuance there, right? I'm suggesting it because it's been my experience overall with my own practice and with the practices that I've observed that we tend to move into it. And then there's obviously back and forth between realization and practice and everything. But so I don't want to get too wrapped up in that right now, but just take it for what it's worth. That right now, what I'm suggesting is that there's a foundational practice that can be developed to exquisite and extraordinary precision in and of itself, leading to the enlightened mind. But that this sense of balanced, alert equanimity, beginning with the pose, moving through these breathing, the focus on the breath, then positions as well to move into deeper states of concentration or visualization or Dzogchen. My thinking, I know I'm talking a lot without talking about the practice. My thinking on this is, how can we let things be as they are when we are distracted? I think there's just some assumptions about where you are in your practice when you hear Dzogchen teachers teaching that isn't stated, right? If you sit and have no understanding of the space of thought or the behavior of thought, then I know for myself, I think I'm letting it be, and really what I'm doing is being buffeted by my obscurations. Right? So, where does the breath come into that? Well, focusing on the breath is very traditional. very foundational practice. Um, we observe the inhale and exhale of the breath. We aren't trying to control the breath. We aren't trying to, it's not a yogic practice of deep and then a lock and then an exhale. Although, if that is your breathing pattern, that's fine. The point is to observe the breath. So we identify the breath as we're sitting in our pose. Where is the breath? Now again, in different schools and different traditions, you will be told where the breath is. Is it the sensation in and out through the nostrils? Right? Is it the sound of it? Is it the feeling of the breath in the abdomen? My thought on this, for what it's worth, is that whichever point is the most present, that allows you to be aware of the inhale and exhale, whether that's the abdomen or the nose or the shoulders or your butt, wherever it is, that's the object of your attention. That's what you're going to pay attention to. That is what you are observing. Okay, now, I use the word there, pay attention. What does that mean? There are a couple words in this practice that I think are useful to be precise about. And one of those is attention, and one of them is mindfulness. So, mindfulness is a word. Boy, I hope you're listening. I hope people are staying on the video longer than the first 30 seconds. Maybe I should break this up into just 30-second snippets. Because what I'm about to say now, I probably should have said right at the beginning. That might be my fault. Maybe if I wrote down a script. But that would be no fun, right? So what do I mean when I say mindfulness here? Well, in the precise teachings, mindfulness is one way of defining mindfulness is that it is the attribute of the mind that knows if it is paying attention or not. Now that's quite different from our general use of mindfulness, because mindfulness is a word that is used broadly in our culture, sometimes to mean paying attention so you can enjoy things more, or even being mindful so that you can be more productive at work. Like where I work, which is a big corporate institution, they offer mindfulness classes for relaxation and focus so that I can work better. And everything in between. Mindfulness in a spa, right? Be mindful as you get a massage. Well, all of those are true, but they're secondary phenomena. They're epiphenomena of what I'm going to use the word mindfulness to mean that when you sit and you say, I'm going to pay attention to my breath, right there, that is not, like that dialogue is something worth thinking about. We'll come back to that tomorrow. We'll come back to that. Who is saying what to whom? But having identified the objective, mindfulness is the bit that alerts yourself that you are no longer paying attention to the breath. And you can easily experience this. When I sit for 20 minutes and do breathing practice like this, I don't want to say that within the first minute I have been captivated by thought and no longer paying attention to my breath. But multiple times in the 20 minutes, I recognize that I've been distracted. But here's the thing. The mindfulness of the distraction, the recognition of that distraction, and the return to the breath, that is the practice. So instead of sitting there thinking, I have failed because I'm no longer paying attention to my breath, And you'll know what it means to not be paying attention to the breath anymore, because you'll realize that you've been thinking about anything else: breakfast, work, uh, a conversation you had with your father 20 years ago. Like, it could be anything. And you will recognize that it is not the breath. And just like that, you are awake. You are alert and you are awake. And that is the practice. We want to cultivate that sense of recognition that you are not focused on the breath. Look, eventually, if you choose, you can stop focusing on the breath. You can think of focusing on the breath as training wheels to achieve a mind free from distraction. And the first part of that is to say, here's my breath, and here's everything that is not my breath, right? And so you are distracted when you are not paying attention to the breath. Note that I'm not saying that there is nothing other than the breath. This practice does not suppress the thought. The thoughts don't disappear. Your experience doesn't end. What we're doing is creating a space where you can cultivate the recognition of what is the attention and what is not the attention. Is there a pain in your knee? Well, the pain in the knee can still be there while you're focused on the breath, right? The image of clouds in the sky, right? Very basic, wonderful teaching. The sun can be blocked by a cloud, but the sun is still there. The sun is the breath, is the focus. The cloud is the sensation. The cloud will do what clouds do. They will, I don't know how they're formed. I don't know. Clouds are what? Water? Yes. Right? So you have water vapor in the air that gradually forms, moves, and then I guess once it reaches a certain weight, it precipitates out, and the cloud's not there anymore. Thoughts are the same way. And again, once we have some stability, and you are observing, you're focused on the breath, then you're observing this cavalcade of activity. Then we start to scrutinize the behavior of the thought, not the content of the thought. It doesn't matter whether it's breakfast or the most profound realization, whether it's what we think of as a positive recognition or whether we think it's something negative and distracting. It doesn't matter. We'll start to talk about the behavior of the thought, and that's where we get into real deep insight. But I think it starts with being able to stabilize attention, right? So we are sitting, we're paying attention to the breath, covering the breath with attention. One of the teachers that I listen to says, I can't remember which one, from the inhale to the exhale. Aware of the phenomena and the thoughts around us, but not letting our attention be captivated by those. And we know when we have been captivated, we recognize it, and it is as simple as saying, I am awake and I return to my breath. That moment of recognition of distraction is actually a good thing. It's the cause of the practice. It's the cause and the result of the practice. It's to be able to know when you're distracted. We want that experience to occur more often, and we want the experience to extend in duration. And it starts with this pose and this focus on the breath. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to talk more about that moment and the nature of the thought, and start to bring in some of the insight practice that can mature as we get some stability and some equanimity. Then I'll just keep going. I think this is a helpful set of videos. I'm going to go for 3 days or 30 days or 300 days, one a day, just kind of talking through some of these, what I think are foundational practices in meditation. So if you have any questions, please just drop them in the comments, and I'll get to them. This is important, right? This is why I'm doing the channel. So with that, enjoy your day, keep your wits about you, and practice.